on May. I'll start again. This is a regular meeting of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment being held electronically via Zoom on May 25th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given by prominently posting the sunshine notice of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment. Such notice has been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and by transmitting a copy of the notice to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, The Times, Trentonian, and by filing a copy with the Clerk of Princeton on May 23rd, 2022, and has been posted to the municipal website, www.princetonnj.gov/meetings. Pursuant to the extension of the ongoing state of emergency by Executive Order Number 292, in accordance with the Emergency Remote Public Meeting Protocol for local public bodies, to conduct a public meeting without physical attendance by members of the public, notice that during this extension of state of emergency, all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Zoning Board of Adjustment will be held electronically via Zoom, was transmitted to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, The Times, and was filed with the Clerk of Princeton on the 24th day of April, 2020. Such notices have been placed on the official bulletin board at the municipal complex and on the Princeton website and are to be maintained throughout the year. And by transmitting a copy of same to the Princeton Packet, Town Topics, Times, Trentonian, Comcast Media, and by filing a copy thereof with the Clerk of Princeton, notices have been placed on all windowed doors of the municipal complex. Okay, Claudia, can you call the roll? Please.
Ms. Chen,
Here.
Ms. Coulson, Mr. Davich,
Here.
Mr. Floyd,
Here.
Mr. Shriver,
Here.
Mr. Tenenbaum, Mr. Stein,
Here.
Ms. Donna, Chairman Cohen.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a number of resolutions this evening, so we might as well begin with those. The first one is 76 Prince William Court, Block 7701, Lot 14. It's case number Z22-155. It's in your packets, and if there are any comments, please make them. If not, if somebody would like to make a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
Thank you. Claudia?
Davich,
Here.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein. George,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. The next one is 39 Pine Street, Block 30.01, Lot 21, case number Z22-184. Once again, that's in your packets. Comments or a motion, please? Corrections, whatever.
I move to approve. Michael Floyd.
Thank you. Do we have a
Second.
second? Okay, Claudia?
Davich,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes.
Thank you.
The third one is Grosso Homes LLC, oops, excuse me, 560 Lake Drive, Block 8802, Lot 9, case number Z22-195. Comments, corrections, motions?
I move approval. Michael
Thank you.
Floyd.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Ms. Chen,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
yes,
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Okay. 516 Cherry Hill Road, block 2201, lot 29, case Z 21-134.
Board members, I have two revisions I'd like to propose. Right after the file number on page 1, it should be Jean, not Jen. And on page 3, paragraphs 2 and 5 are repetitive. So I'd propose that we just strike paragraph 5, and all that's going to do is just change the numbering of the paragraphs.
So moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Who was that?
I think Jim was first.
Yeah,
Say that again, please.
Savage,
Thank you. Ms. Chen,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd? Mr. Floyd?
yes, excuse me, sorry,
Mr. Stein?
Yes.
Chairman Cohen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. The next one is 61 Harris Road. Oh, yeah, 61 Harris, 61 Harris Road, block 7107, lot 2, case number Z 22-187. Questions, comments, corrections, motions?
I'll move to approve it.
Thank you. We have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Okay,
Chen,
Yes.
Olson? I'm sorry, Mr. Shriver?
Yes.
Mr. Stein? George
George,
Stein?
I think George was frozen there for a minute.
Chairman Cohen?
yes. Did we hear from George or not?
No.
Okay,
I think he's off the
We-
screen now. Maybe he's
Yeah.
trying to get back on.
okay. We'll give it a second here. Yep, there's, George is back, I think. Yep. George, you're muted.
George,
Okay,
I had an internet problem, so.
okay.
61 Harris, did you say yes before you went? 61 Harris, the resolution.
Yeah, okay, I'll vote yes.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. 44 Morgan Place, block 6802, lot 21, case number Z 22-206.
I'll move approval,
Thank you.
Floyd,
Second.
Thank you, Claudia.
Ms. Coulson,
Am I saying that I'm here or am I voting on something?
You're voting on the resolution for 44 Morgan.
Yes.
Michael Floyd, Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, our last motion is 252 Guyot Street, block 7201, lot 4, case number Z22-208.
Board members, 2 minor revisions. I've been told that it's Gio Avenue, not Gio Street. So I will make those corrections in the resolution. And on page 3, we had a public comment from Mr. Swanson, but in that paragraph, he's referred to as she, and obviously it should be he. So other than those changes, it's on the agenda now for your approval.
Okay,
I'll move to approve.
thank you.
Second, Floyd.
Thank you.
Well,
Wilson,
Yes. Sorry.
Mr. Floyd,
yes.
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Did you call me, Claudia? Did I miss it?
You voted no
Oh,
for that.
okay. Okay. All right. We are finished with the resolutions and now we'll move on to the applications. Our first one is a carryover. It's 420 Mount Lucas Road, block 4201, lot 15 in the RB zone. Case Z20-875. Now, I was absent for the first hearing, but I listened to the tape and I sent a notice, Claudia, I believe you have that. So, Derek, do you want to say something?
I'll just note before you begin, Derek, that the applicant renoticed for this application and that noticing is in order. And we'll swear you in, Derek, for the evening. Do you swear affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Ma'am, I do.
Thank you.
Now, the applicant has submitted a revised plan which pushes the garage back a little bit towards the property line on the right side. And they did submit a turning template to Jim Purcell, the assistant municipal engineer, and he concurs that the template does allow adequate ingress and egress into the parking lot. And then the rest of it, I think it's better if Ryan just does his presentation. He has a PowerPoint.
Okay. So is that who's representing the case this evening?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Ryan Kennedy from Stevens and Lee. I see we have Jim Kamalik, our engineer. I don't know that we need him, but our planner, Jim Kyle, is also on the line if we can move him over. As Derek said, I'll say 2 months ago, but unfortunately, and thanks to you guys, that was like 12 meetings ago. Thanks to all the special meetings you guys have done. So much appreciated there. But what would have been 2 meetings ago, we heard the testimony for 420 Mount Lucas. It's for the Tull family. They have a severely undersized lot. We talked about a accessory building in the back that had a floor area issue, as well as a new modest addition on the back of the house for a garage. We got through all of the testimony, public comment, and everything, but during deliberations, it was noticed that the existing condition on the site had a small encroachment in the driveway area where, with permission from a neighbor, the applicant's part of it was being used. And the question was whether the garage location had enough space to make that turning movement. We've since talked to the neighbor, but ultimately ended up being easier to move the garage. People, I'll just say, get a little squeamish when it comes to documenting easements and thinking about selling. So the solution was to make the garage slightly smaller and to shift it a few feet so that there's a net extra 4 feet for a total of 20 feet of turning movement. We sent those diagrams to, as Derek said, to Jim Purcell to show that it worked, and he agreed. If we could, I'd like to just very briefly take the board with our engineer, Jim Kamalik, who whether he's sworn in still from last week, month, or 3 months ago. perhaps we could-
We'll swear you in again, Mr. Chmalik. Do you swear affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we had previously marked a series of slides. We're looking at that now. When we get to a few new ones that we had submitted last week, I'll let everyone know. I guess, Karen, if we want to call this a new exhibit or just an amended exhibit, it's still the same deck, but with 15 through 18 being new. However you'd like to refer to that, deal to you.
I'm looking to see what exhibit we're up to. I think you only had one.
We only had one. That's
All
right.
right, well, why don't we make this exhibit A2 then? How about
Okay.
that?
All right. So just as a recap, this is an exhibit essentially that you all saw at the last hearing. It shows the extremely narrow lot and the existing driveway in gray, and in blue, the new additions proposed, the front being a front porch, the back being a garage, and the orange being the yellow house. Jim, I'm going to now skip ahead to the revised plan. So this is page 15 of Exhibit 2. This is the first sheet that didn't exist on the prior exhibits last time. So Jim, you want to tell us, following our conversation with the board and deliberations, about the concern about whether there's enough room to make that turning movement, what we ended up doing and how that works?
Sure. I think the punchline here is previously where there was 16 feet clear from the face of the garage to the property line, you can see now that we have 20 feet clear. And we did use the AASHTO passenger vehicle template for that, coming in and out of each stall. We ran that by Jim Purcell, and he was satisfied as a minimum clearance of 20 feet, that would be satisfactory. And that was basically accomplished with just slightly reducing the depth a touch by a foot. And then in the upper right-hand corner, you can see, and this was suggested by one of the board members at the last meeting, the possibility of shifting the addition just slightly into that side yard in order to effectuate some additional area. So we have a 3-foot shift, and that comprised, a total area sufficient to get in and out of the garage. And it necessitates a side yard setback variance of 6.3 feet to the property line. And it would be 4.8 feet to the edge of the overhang as shown here on the plan. And our planner previously gave testimony relative to the fact that on the adjacent property to the north, on top of the page, that area butts a side yard of an existing residence as well as their driveway and garage area. So it's not immediately on the facade of an adjacent residence, and the residence is greater than 50 feet away from the existing residence here on this property. So there's a decent distance there. We don't see any additional negative impact. So we feel that the planning testimony provided previously would still support this. And I think we did summarize some of the variances on the zoning table.
Sure. And Jim, two things. One, not everyone can see all the Hollywood squares here tonight, Mr. Chairman. I see Mr. Bridger's hand is up. I don't know if he wants to ask something while we're on that slide.
No, I was just asking that if you're not speaking, to please turn off your mic because we were getting feedback. So
I appreciate that.
thank you.
So Jim, moving to slide 16, this I guess shows the other confirming turning motion for the other garage bay as well.
Right, that's correct.
Okay. Slide 17, I guess this on the left here is the original plan in orange, the garage, and you can see kind of in blue how it was shifted over to the right 3 feet and what made 1 foot narrower. I'll say we blew up the new one for effect. It's not getting bigger. That's just to show the detail of the newer version of the plan.
Right.
Slide 18, you could see we've kind of put in arrows here on the rear and front, profile, so you could or elevation, so you could kind of see on the bottom rear elevation, you could see this kind of piece here is where there was garage and currently there isn't anymore. On the left, you can see where, or on the top left, you can see the rear elevation where it now bumps out those 3 feet that we talked about.
Correct.
And then Jim, page 19, this is the summary of the slightly revised variances.
Right, so as I mentioned, that side yard variance where 7.8 proposed was previous, it would be 6.3 feet to the facade wall and then 4.8 feet to the edge of the eave. That slight shift of 3 feet also necessitates a little modification to the height to setback ratio. So administratively, that would be 0.42 to 1 instead of the 0.72 to 1 that we had previously. Again, it's just an existing undersized lot, so that's the reason for the deviation. And then lastly, because the vehicles within the garage are technically parking spaces, we also wanted to adjust the number so everything matches up with the side parking setback of 6.3 feet to that garage enclosed parking space. So these are basically the three modifications for this adjustment. We feel that it addresses the concern of the board and achieves that without the need for further encroachment or easement restrictions on the adjacent property. And it basically comports with some of the suggestions from the prior meeting.
Thank you, Jim. Happy to take any questions from the board, either for Jim Kamalik or because we have him, and I hope it's because he had another matter tonight. Jim Kyle, our planner, just again, recall we got through our planning testimony on the floor area issues and the other variances last time. We'd be happy to recap or answer any questions about either the revisions of the plan that was done to ensure that we can turn in here without needing to go into the neighboring property, or the other variances or testimony from the prior meeting. Again, thank you all for your time. I know you got a very busy night tonight, so we wanted to keep it as simple as possible for you guys.
Okay, I have a question on the floor area ratio. I did listen to the tape, but can you tell me again what justifies a significant increase, almost doubling the floor area ratio? I mean, it's a very, look, I recognize it's a very small site and there's a lot happening on it, but the addition of this garage on the site is really going to impact the overall site design. And I just don't understand what justifies the increase from a floor area ratio of 15.7 to over 26. I recognize that you want an enclosure from the house into the basement. That's logical, but it doesn't take a 400 square foot garage to do that. So tell me why the floor area increase is justified.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Jim Kyle, planner for the applicant. I appeared at the last hearing.
Kyle, would you swear you in again? Do you swear
Sure.
from your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
So the real issue with this lot and the percentage, which is deceiving, is the lot is only 8,711 square feet where 130,680 is required. So being that the lot is that deficient and that FAR standard was really geared towards a 3 acre lot, it's very difficult to meet that. And it's not a hardship argument. It's just a practical thing. The garage, as you pointed out, is intended not only to provide that connection, but to get the cars enclosed, get them out of the back of the house. You know, there's dwellings on either side. And the one that's to our west is close. So it's just cleaning up, getting some coverage for the cars. And I think ultimately will be an improvement to the appearance of the back of the lot, which the neighbors see. But really, you know, while the percentage looks like it's a lot, for a lot that's this small in a 3-acre zone, it's, you know, as we discussed in the last hearing, this is just providing reasonable living space. I don't think there's anything, you know, extravagant here. And certainly, you know, it's not a 3-car garage. It's just, you know, really the minimum required to get the 2 cars under cover.
Well, I can appreciate that. But it is a small lot. It's always been a small lot. A small lot comes with restrictions. And it was, there's nothing new in here, and the increase is so significant. And when you look at it, when you go out there and look at it, and you look at the garage in relationship to the shed, or let's call it little studio in the back, I mean, a big garage like this is really going to have an impact on this lot. And I recognize it's small, and that's an unusual situation in this area, but I don't know if the justification, you know, again, looking at the standard for a larger lot, really makes a difference in terms of the overall increase in the floor area ratio. It's just very, very high. I mean, it's significantly high. So I think personally, I think it's too much. You know, I was out there again, and I think a smaller garage would make more sense, but it's not like we're going from 15 to 18%. We're going from 15 to 26. You know, a 10%, over 10% increase. And I just don't know if that's justified.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, and it's really, you know, the test for floor area ratio variance, you guys have heard it a million times. It's really, can the lot accommodate the problem associated with the increase that's sought? And I think, you know, given the substantial screening that we have to the south, you know, where the driveway is positioned on the adjacent lot, the structures, you know, remaining 1 story, it's still modest in appearance. You know, it was my opinion that I think that the site can accommodate it, you know, particularly in light of the deficiency in the lot area.
Well, you know, again, I think I can appreciate your.
I understand,
but I can't justify something that big when a 1-car garage, you know, would be more a slightly larger 1-car garage, which to accommodate the stair to the basement you would have to do. I just can't see, you know, the justification. Moving it back towards the right-hand property line, I don't know how far it's going to be from the existing fence there, but that's going to have an impact on the neighbor. So I think it's way too big. So I'd like to hear if any of the other board members have any concerns about this.
Steve, do you want to open it to public comment or have board comment first?
Well, I just want to hear a comment on Mr. Kyle's statements. So
I
if
don't
there-
have your expertise, but that's sort of my gut reaction too, is it seems like there's a lot, including, if I recall, the addition to that secondary, I mean, which was there before we were hearing this part of the case, but what was built on top of the little structure in the back, I don't know if that just seems like everything, there's a lot. And I wonder about impervious coverage. I don't know where we stand with that right now, but
impervious coverage were,
It's the same existing and proposed, so there's no change in impervious coverage.
and your impervious coverage at an existing of 58% is assuming that the driveway that's in place is impervious already?
Yes.
So the impact is floor area. Yeah, I can understand that. Okay. All right, well, are there any other comments from the board member on this particular item? Okay, if there are none, then Mr. Kennedy, we're going to open it up to the public. Do you want to say anything?
I would actually, we had kind of gotten past this part of the testimony and deliberation. So there's some new stuff here, and I think we're missing, losing sight of, I guess, some pieces, and I'll ask Jim Kyle to circle back on a little bit more. With this addition, we are talking about a 1,300 square foot house with the addition. These are, I guess it's possible to make the garage slightly smaller, and maybe that's helpful feedback, but I guess we'd like to get from the board exactly where in that range is, because we're really doing that. We think the minimum to make this house meet the needs of a small family. And these are all functions, the numbers, which are, I don't mean to say ridiculous, but when you have a denominator so inappropriately low for the neighborhood, this artifact of a subdivision from decades ago that probably should have never happened. Every square foot you add adds a comically large percentage of floor area to when you get to 1,300 square feet. This is a one-story structure. You get that percentage. And if you were to look at the scale and scope of buildings surrounding it, with the 7.5% you get on a lot that is monstrously larger and what is expected for the zone, you get homes that are 3, 4, 5, 6 times the size of this house. Obviously, that shouldn't be built on this lot. But the questions of what is appropriate for the neighborhood and whether the lot can accept the impact. This garage is being built over and essentially covering what the existing parking is now. There's no new coverage there. It is essentially building an enclosure over where the two small, possibly slightly smaller, now that we've tweaked the garage, cars would currently fit. And by shifting the home around, allowing the enclosure for the stairs, it makes this very modest house livable. And going back to the accessory structure, I'll just note that the area over 4 feet that we're really talking about there is ultimately about 1.5 feet wide. It was an odd artifact of just how it was rebuilt. The applicants could easily have dropped the ceiling down there with no loss of function to 6'11", but they came here to clear it up. That would not make any kind of meaningful difference in the floor area for the lot, either from a percentage perspective or an overall total perspective. So again, I wanted to add that color back in, and Jim Kyle, if there's anything you want to add to that. I mean, we talked about that extensively last time, but again, I hate to use the word comic, but when a lot is this undersized in a neighborhood, it's impossible for have even the most slightest change to bring it up to about 1,300 square feet to not have these impacts.
Yeah, I would agree, Ryan. I mean, it's and it's a good point to make that we're covering existing parking area. So I think there's a benefit to the neighbor that is to the west or south. I think it is, it gets those cars out of what now just appears to be a parking area, functioning like a parking lot, and gets them inside the house. So, we're not talking about anything extravagant here. A 1,300 square foot single story home in this neighborhood is, certainly not anything crazy. So I would ask that you consider that issue alone. And we think the site can accommodate that problem because, again, we're not increasing impervious, so it's not going to come at the expense of other things like coverage to achieve this.
All right, well, let's go into the public portion. I don't necessarily agree with what you said, Mr. Kennedy, but we can discuss that a bit later. Okay, so we'll go into the public portion of the hearing. Claudia, is there anyone that's indicated they'd like to speak to this case?
There are no hands.
Okay. All right, we'll give it a second here. All right, so if there's no one out there, then we'll close the public portion. Mr. Kennedy, we're going to go into executive session. Do you want to say anything?
I guess just have a question for Claudia and Karen. Were there any board members, I believe we do have 7 here tonight. Were there any board members at the original hearing that are not here this evening?
That was April,
That was March. It was the March,
March.
yeah.
Claudia,
here
I'm gonna have to rely on you then. I'm looking back through everything, but I don't know if I have. Oh, hold on. Let's see, March 30th.
March 30th?
It was March 23rd, I think.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well then. No. That
March 23rd, I had, Harlan was out and Mr. Cohen, but then Mr. Cohen listened to the tape.
Okay, all right, so we thank you.
So Donna Deanna was here that day, but I thought she was trying to get on tonight. Maybe she's not here tonight, so. She was here at the last meeting, and then Stephen Cohen listened to the tape, so he wasn't here. So it's the same number, right? Folsom Average for
Thank you.
Shriver. Yeah.
I'll add this. There was extensive discussion and testimony at the prior hearing. We focused, frankly, on kind of a last minute issue, and really the only issue that we heard during deliberations of the turning radius. We were able to address that. Much time has gone by just due to schedules, frankly. And I guess we would like to hear now the board's thinking on the floor area, because I'll be honest, we didn't hear and would probably have made changes if we had heard any feedback or concern with bringing this to enclosing those 2 garage bays and bringing this house up to about the 1,300 square foot level. So I'd certainly like to hear that. I'm sure the applicant would be willing to make some changes if that's what concerns the board. I'll be honest, that was not what we were hearing last time, and we obviously didn't make any changes along that regard because we had gotten to the end and hadn't heard anything to that effect. So I am interested to hear the board's thinking here, and ask that if like we got with the turning radius, that we hear that this number is out of the planet to go to 1,300 square feet, that we be given a time to consider that and perhaps adjust plans rather than, we came here maybe a year and a half ago, ultimately, or at least we started this process because of I'll say a whoops, where a contractor rebuilt the garage and changed the upper the roof line to count as a little bit more floor area. But we came back and kind of, because this is an expensive and long and difficult process, after talking to staff, we thought, well, this is something that no one wants to do twice. And on such a little lot, adding a mailbox will require a floor area variance. And they looked at it and said, well, do you need a new mailbox? Or what things does their family need to make this house usable? And we looked at that and came back with that as part of the application. So that's not this is not a castle by any means, and there's not a lot of room to change, but if we could get that type of feedback, I think it would be very helpful to the applicant. So thank you. And again, thank you for your time.
Okay.
The only point I wanted to make is I don't think, no, that was the meeting of March 23rd.
I don't know, I have it in my packet.
I'm not
My-
sure that, I think only one or two board members commented as to their thoughts at that time. So I understand the applicant's position, but the application was carried and changes were made to it. So I think at this point now, the board is seeing it in its what the applicant hopes is its final iteration now. So I think the board's entitled to make the comment it wants to make. That's what I'm trying to say.
I disagree. I mean, no, I'm sorry. I completely
No,
agree.
I understand you
no,
disagree.
No,
I'm
no,
just.
no,
Yeah.
that was a misspeaking. I completely agree. I just want to, from a process perspective, if we can get some feedback, we'd certainly love to hear it, because again, it's the chairman's comments on size are new for us. So thank you.
Are we in executive session yet?
We're about to be.
Okay.
We're not there yet. Okay, Mr. Kennedy, you have anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay, we are now in executive session. So,
Well, I'll just say that I remember the conversations pretty clearly, and I thought we were absolutely going for approval of this until I think Ms. Chen brought up the turning radius. And, you know, when we looked at that, we all did have a real problem with that and sent it back to Mr. Kennedy. And, you know, I don't disagree with what you're saying, Steve, but I think given the property and given the size of the house, I don't see any reason to cut a little bit off it just to alter the floor raise and the FAR. So I'm for it.
okay,
Yeah, I would agree with that. My main concern at that prior meeting was about the turning radius and impact on the neighbor. And I see that that's been addressed. So I can support it.
I would like to ask a question about the context. I'd certainly take Chairman Cohen's larger point about floor area ratios being in excess of what's permitted, requiring therefore a floor area ratio variance. But along this stretch of Mount Lucas, is the plan for a 1,300 square foot house, how does it compare with others? Is this the smallest, even if enlarged?
Yeah.
Does the applicant or perhaps Mr. Bridger have a comment on that?
I don't have any information on the range of sizes.
I'll say, and perhaps our planner can join in, but this would make it a very appropriate guest house or garage for some of the neighboring houses. This is a very large zone where 7.5% of floor area gets you quite a big home. So I don't know if we didn't look at or do a study of the other numbers because we were nowhere close to them. But it's that type of order of magnitude difference.
I agree. It's a very modest home. I'm not disputing that. And it's a very modest home in an area with very large homes, but it's always been that way. I mean, this was a small lot when they purchased the home. It's always been a small lot, and the lots around it have always been larger. And obviously with the requirements on a small lot, I mean, it goes with the lot. I mean, I don't think you can justify the increase in floor area based on its relationship to the larger lots around it. It happens to be, let's just say, maybe a poorly subdivided lot, but it's been that way since the beginning. I'm just concerned that the significant size of the floor area ratio increase, and again, I don't agree with your logic or Mr. Kyle's in this case, and I have respect for both of you. And but I still think it's a very big increase on a very small lot. Yes, Michael?
I agree with the applicant, Mr. Kennedy. I think looking at it as this very small lot and applying a very low FAR is not a good thing to do. I think it's such a small lot that just adding a few square feet or 300 square feet would not, yeah, you go over the 15% FAR, but if this was an R4 in the borough, it would allow a 30% FAR. I mean, the actual base, as in my opinion, as the Mr. Kennedy says, is a function in here, and it just pushes it out of the realm for me. And I'm not going to debate it with you, Steve.
No, that's fine. And I can appreciate your comment. It's just, like I said,
No, I'm just stating my view because we're taking sort of a survey of what the board members.
Mhm.
That's my
Sure.
view. No debate
Okay.
on it.
That's fine. I appreciate that. Anyone else care to comment? Okay, well, if we have no more comments, if someone would like to make a motion, we'll,
Let me just say, because I feel like since I expressed an opinion earlier, I owe it to the group or whatever to say a little bit more. I'm really torn because I appreciate that it's a small property, and it's a very small house for Princeton for the most part, and I appreciate that. I worry about setting a precedent, that if we say, and yet there's part of me that's saying, if I remember correctly, the properties surrounding it have a lot of open space. Now, we can't exactly borrow that even legally or even, in our imaginations and really count on it. But in some ways, it doesn't feel like it could cause the kinds of problems that I do worry about sometimes when we allow something that, I'm just going to use my own terminology, that seems
Sure.
a little bit overbuilt. But it's a small house. So I mean, it's a small, and as you say, Steve, it's also a small property, and that's what it was to begin with. So I'm not sure that I'm actually telling you what I'm going to decide here, but I'm a little bit more persuaded that to cut the owner some slack, because I kind of think it's hard to achieve what they're trying to achieve with what they've got to work with,
okay,
if that makes sense.
okay. If someone would like to make a comment, or if someone likes to would present a motion.
I move that we accept this
I'll second it.
proposal.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any comments from any of the board members? Okay, Claudia, please call the roll.
Ken,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes,
Mr. Davich,
Muted, Jim.
Sorry, yes.
Mr.
Could renew
Foy,
that.
Yes.
Mr. Shriver,
Yes,
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
I'm sorry, no.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
You're welcome.
And appreciate this was a tough one, and again, appreciate the thinking on this as well. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, our next case is case Z 22-190, 51 Cleveland Lane, block 6.02, lot 10 in the R1 zone of the former borough. Derek, would you, first, Karen, is everything, all the
The
paperwork in order?
noticing is in order. The board has jurisdiction tonight.
Thank you. Derek, can you summarize your memo, please?
Chairman. Paul and Ann Sobel are the owners of 51 Cleveland Lane. They're seeking a C1 variance to permit construction of a pool within the required front yard setback. The variance is also requested to permit the previous installation of a generator in exception to the required setback. Property is located in the R1 zone in the former Princeton Borough and is subject to the use and bulk regulations in accordance with sections 17A, 227, 231, and 403 of the Princeton Borough Land Use Ordinance. The existing single-family use is permitted as of right, and the subject lot is non-complying with regard to the required 20,000 square foot lot area. The existing 17,411. It's also non-required, complying with the required lot width of 125. The existing is 104, and the property itself, that house is not compliant with the front yard setback. The requirement is prevailing along Cleveland. It's 72.4 feet, and the existing is 17.5 feet. It's non-compliant with the required larger side yard setback. The requirement's 20, and the existing 17.5. And the garage setback requirements 5 feet, and the existing is a slight, it's like 0.02 feet encroachment. And it's over the impervious coverage requirement of 36%. The existing is 42%. The applicants are seeking variance approval to permit the construction of a 161 square foot plunge pool. The existing impervious, as I mentioned earlier, exceeds the amount limited on site. The applicant will reduce the existing impervious by removing portions of the driveway and sidewalk so that after the pool is installed, the impervious coverage will be 41%. Excuse me. Section 17A, 228 of the former Princeton Borough Code identifies pools as accessory structures and requires that any pool greater than 250 square feet in area or 18 inches in depth be set back at least 20 feet from a property line and in no case shall be located in the front yard setback. Section 17A 380 requires that accessory structures on corners be set back in the side or rear yard and equal amount to the required front yard setback for the adjacent home. Prevailing front yard setback on the adjacent home is 72 feet. They're seeking a variance to permit a setback of 22 feet. And then as during the review of the application, it was noted that a generator was located on the plans along the Western Road elevation, was not in a complying location. In a conversation with the applicant's attorney, advised that generator had been relocated during a previous construction project from a complying location behind the garage to its current location, which they did get a permit for the location behind the garage. When it was moved, there was no permit was obtained. So they're seeking a variance to permit the generator in its current location. The required setback is 10 feet. The existing is 8. And then there's the proposed pool equipment location is also not complying with regard to the required 10-foot setback. The proposed setback is 6 feet 6. And the applicant's attorney indicated that the pool equipment will move to a complying location. If the board has any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions of Mr. Bridger? All right, who's going to be representing this case?
I am, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. This is Bob Rodolfi. I'm the attorney for Mr. and Mrs. Sobel. Unfortunately, the camera on my desktop just died about an hour ago. So you're not going to be able to enjoy seeing me tonight. Well, I can see you, but you can't see me, and I apologize. I have to get a new camera or something tomorrow. I don't know what the problem is. Dirk, thank you for that very informative introduction. You stole my thunder as usual. I would just add that I will have three witnesses this evening. I have Mr. and Mrs. Sobel. I count them as one. I have Dan Fryer, who's a civil engineer with Van Cleef Engineering Associates, and Jim Kyle, planner, who will provide the planning rationale for you to consider approving the variances as part of this application. We've also reviewed Mr. Bridger's review memorandum and are prepared to address the issues raised in that memo. So Karen, do you want, if there are no questions of me at this point, do you want to have everybody sworn in at the same time or as they come up to bat?
No, we can do everyone, but can everybody get on the screen then? I see Mr. Kyle. Are your clients going to testify, Bob? Mr.
Yes,
and
they
Mrs.
are.
Sobel? Okay, if they could get themselves on screen now and unmute. Okay, we're waiting for them and then your engineer as well, Mr. Fryer, we need him on video.
Right.
There he is. Okay.
See the Sobels, but I don't see them. I saw their name.
No, we're here. We're
Okay,
having
we
issues.
we just need to see you.
Yeah, we'd love to be seen. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
There you are. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Sobel, Mr. Fryer, Mr. Kyle, do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
I do.
I do.
Okay,
Okay, we're all set? I think Mr. Sobel's still getting adjusted. There we go.
Okay.
May we proceed, Mr. Chairman, may we proceed? May we proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Paul, I think you're probably going to take the lead on the testimony, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So you and Ann are the applicants for this application this evening, correct?
Yes,
And both of you reside at 51 Cleveland Lane. And
do.
that's at the corner of Library and Cleveland Lane, right?
correct.
How long have you owned the property?
10 years.
All right. And it's your understanding that you are requesting the board to consider your application for 2 bulk variances this evening. And in connection with that, did you take the time to review Mr. Bridger's memorandum dated March 31 of this year?
I did.
All right. And you're prepared to address some of the issues raised in that memorandum?
Yes.
Good, thank you. Let's talk about the generator first before we jump into the information pertaining to the pool. Where was the generator originally located?
It was behind the garage.
And then it was moved in what, approximately 2013?
No, it was a little later.
Okay.
2017.
2017. And why did you move the generator from its original location to its current location?
It was moved because we added a room to the house. So it was blocking, it just wasn't the correct location.
Right. And you had a contractor do all that work, including the relocation of the generator, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
And it was your understanding that all was good and the generator was relocated and you were never aware that the generator's new location violated the setback requirement set by the ordinance?
Absolutely. We assumed everything was done correctly.
And in fact, this knowledge came to your attention during the review of this application for the pool variance, correct?
It was a surprise to us.
Okay. Now, did you consider moving the generator so it would then comply with the ordinance provisions?
There would be too many issues involving underground wires, involving gas lines, and so it really would not be practical to move it again.
Now, is this generator visible from the street?
No, it's not.
Is it visible anywhere on your property?
No, it's behind the shrubbery and between the fence, so it can't be seen by anyone.
All righty. Okay. So you've got electric lines, you've got underground gas lines. So in conclusion, you're asking this board to grant your application for the variance for the generator to remain in its current location.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. let's proceed with some testimony from you about the pool. And I have to admit to the board, I've been doing this land use work for this 43 years now. This is my first plunge pool. I had no idea what a plunge pool is. So Paul, could you take a minute or two to explain to the board if they don't know what a plunge pool is?
Sure. A plunge pool is, I'll call it an abbreviated pool. Abbreviated because it's not as large as a standard pool. And it's designed to fit in areas that are small, such as in this case, where we couldn't accommodate a larger size pool.
And do you know offhand the dimensions of the proposed pool, Paul?
Yes, 9 by 17,
And approximately how deep will the pool be?
no more than 4 feet.
Right, so clearly there's no diving board. There's no deep end, correct?
No, it's uniform.
And is the pool designed so that there is a ledge around most of the perimeter of the pool where one can sit and just enjoy being in the pool?
Yes, and that's really at the heart of the pool. It's designed for people to just cool off and relax. It's not really a swimming pool.
So you're not going to be doing laps there?
No, it's not big enough.
Okay. There is a overview photograph of this portion of the Sobel's property. Claudia, you got that? Could you share your screen and show the board that aerial photo?
Do you mean the one I did, Bob?
Yes.
Oh, okay, Claudia, I can share it.
She uploaded. You, Jim or Claudia? There we go.
Yep.
Ah, there we go.
Bob, do you want to make this an exhibit?
Yes, we should make this
A1?
A1.
A1, okay.
Yes, thank you. And Paul, could you just describe what the was on the screen now outlined in yellow?
I'm not quite sure. Well, that's the perimeter of the property.
That's it. Okay, so that's your lot
Yes.
in yellow.
Mhm.
Jim, is there any way you can zoom in on this photograph without losing too much of the grain? Okay. Whoops. There we go. All right. Now, Jim, is that your cursor that I see?
Yep.
Okay, good. Paul, do you see where the Jim's cursor is right now? Is that
Yes.
the location of the proposed pool?
That is indeed.
All right. And what is there now?
It's just a grassy area.
All right. Now you have your entire property, especially your backyard, is replete with just beautiful formal garden scape, correct?
Correct, yes.
And in addition to the landscaping, what appears to be a white line along the frontage of Library Place, what is that, so the board understands?
That is the fence that we installed.
Okay. And that acts as a visual blockade for anybody strolling down Library Place, correct?
Correct, yes.
So this really is a privacy pool. It's surrounded by landscaping. It's shielded by that wall along Library Place. So you're not going to be able to see any, you're sitting in your new plunge pool. You're not going to be able to see anybody walking on Library Place, are you?
No, no one could see us and we couldn't see anyone.
Okay, great. Now there's also associated pool equipment, for example, a heater and the pool filter. Your original plans showed that they were not respecting the setback, but we have agreed informally with Mr. Bridger during our course of our review that you will agree to revise the plan to show that they will conform with the side yard setback. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. You've been working on this pool project for several years, have you not?
Off and on, yes, that's true.
And I have to ask the question, because the board, before any board member does, isn't there any other place on the property where this pool could be located without variances?
No, there was no place.
What about the area of the backyard? Why couldn't you put it in the backyard?
It would require a variance as well. And this was designed when we redid the backyard to be a reflecting pool. So the plunge pool will double as a reflecting pool as well. It's part of the Italianate look of the backyard.
Okay, and you also have a drainage facility in the backyard, which would prohibit the pool to be located back there, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay,
We added a retention pond when we built the addition.
all righty. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the board, either Paul or Ann, before I move on to the next?
Yeah. No. I think we're good.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, any questions of the applicants at this point?
I don't have any.
Yeah, we proceed. Any other board members have any questions?
Was the addition put on? When was the generator moved?
I think they said 2017, is that correct?
Around that time, yes.
And were there any variances given for the addition that you put on the house?
No, it wasn't required.
Thank you.
Any other?
I actually have a question about the generator, but it might be for Mr. Bridger. I'm just wondering, why is it not supposed to be where it is? Is it have to do with noise or?
It's a setback requirement. It should be
Oh.
set back 10 feet and it's set back 8 feet.
Got it. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else? Okay, thanks, Paul and Ann. Our next witness is Dan Fryer, our civil engineer. Dan, you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Would you please state your profession?
Sure. I'm a professional licensed civil engineer.
And are you licensed in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I am.
And by whom are you employed?
I'm employed with Van Cleef Engineering Associates.
And how long have you been employed by Van Cleef as an engineer?
I've been with Van Cleef Engineering for almost 5 years now.
All right. I don't believe you've qualified before this board as an engineer. Is that correct?
Yes, not in front of Princeton.
Okay.
I think we would accept him as an expert.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
All right. So you are familiar with the plans in conjunction that were submitted in conjunction with this application?
Yes, so we prepared them and I signed and sealed them.
Okay. You're familiar with the neighborhood and the property in question?
Yes,
And have you been to the property?
I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Have you taken the time to review Mr. Bridger's review memorandum?
Yes,
Okay. Would it be possible, Claudia, to get the Van Cleef plan up so Dan can walk us through the dimensional aspects of the property?
Dan, was it the February 11th plan? I have
Yes.
it here. Yep,
Yes,
okay, I have it.
February
I'll
11th.
share it.
And shall we mark this exhibit A2?
A2 would be great, thank
All
you.
right, this is preliminary and final site plan.
Okay, can we scroll so we can see the pool area?
that's page 2. Yep. So if you want to look at the upper viewport up here, you'll be able to see the existing conditions and the demolition plans. As was mentioned earlier, the existing impervious lot coverage is at 42%. And although the pool is going to add impervious coverage, the owner plans to mitigate this additional area and reduce the overall coverage on the lot by removing portions of the driveway and the sidewalk. You can see in the gray, it's kind of a gray shade. there's the front sidewalk where we're gonna be removing portions of that. And then along the easterly side of the driveway, they're gonna be pulling that back in order to reduce the impervious coverage. So as a result, the modifications will reduce the overall lot impervious coverage to 41%.
And could you just show the board once again the location of the proposed pool? Is that on the second?
Yep.
There we go. There we go. Okay.
So, yep. So as you can see on the pool, it's going to be 161 square foot total area, and that's 15.8 by 7.1, so a modest sized pool, and it's going to be located within in the backyard, and it's going to be behind the retaining wall and privacy fence. From a visual standpoint, this is really the best location, I believe, to put it. It's going to be screened from the south and the east direction by the existing house and the garage, from the west by the retaining wall, the privacy fence, and the dense landscaping, and to the north as well by the privacy fence and additional dense landscaping.
Now, could you just confirm to the board from an engineering standpoint, if you're in the pool Saturday afternoon, will you be able to see any pedestrians walking up and down Library Place?
No.
And vice versa, do you believe, in your opinion, that any pedestrians walking up and down Library Place would be able to peer into the pool?
No.
Because in addition to a fence, there's a solid masonry wall blocking anyone's view, right?
Yeah, and a portion of the fence is actually on top of the masonry wall, so it's further impeding the view.
Okay, and there's very dense landscaping along that section, fronts along Library Place, right?
Yes, and you can see that in the aerial that Jim had up earlier.
Right. Okay, anything else you'd like to add to your testimony, Dan?
As a result of the pool, from a stormwater perspective, we're going to be reducing the impervious coverage, so stormwater management was not required. And this area is very flat, and adding the pool is not going to change any drainage patterns during and following construction.
Okay. Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
I don't have any.
Anybody else?
I'm curious, since it's only being reduced 1%, are you saying that at 42%, they would have to do stormwater management, or? That's what I don't quite understand why you were making that point.
Yeah, if you have an increase in the impervious coverage, you would be required to do stormwater management.
Wasn't it? So at 40, it's been at 42%, is that correct?
Yes.
And if, I don't know can somebody tell me what, is that the amount at which it has to be? I mean, it's over the allowable, but I'm not clear. Mr. Bridgerton?
Yeah, the way the stormwater ordinance works, if you add more than 400 square feet of net new impervious coverage, you are required to have a stormwater management plan. However, if you're already over the stormwater, there are two rate thresholds. There's a 400 square feet, and then there's a percentage based on lot area. And if you're over that percentage based on lot area, if you do not increase that percentage, you could do a project. So if they're at 41 and they add 400 square feet, but they take away 400 square feet, it's essentially like a zero net gain, and that's okay. And that's essentially what they're doing here. So that it's not required in this case, as long as they do remove that impervious coverage that they've indicated on the plan.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Anyone else, Mr. Chairman?
Do you have any other witnesses now?
Yes, I have one more. Jim Kyle. He'll be brief.
Did somebody else also have a question? I think
I do. The pool utilities, is that a structure or are they just sitting on a pad?
I believe there's sitting on a concrete pad in a location that conforms to the required setback regulations.
That is correct. There is no structure.
No enclosure or anything like that, so
No.
you'll see the pump and all that sitting on a
But
pad.
it'll be hidden behind the shrubs.
Okay.
Hey, Jim, you ready to add your testimony?
I am.
Would you please state your name and profession?
Sure. James Kyle with Kyle McManus Associates in Hopewell, New Jersey. I'm a professional planner.
And you are familiar with this application, and you've read Mr. Bridger's memorandum. You've previously qualified to testify for this board a couple of times, haven't you?
A few times, yeah.
Okay, good. Why don't you share your observations of this application from a planning standpoint?
Sure. So this is block 6.02. It's lot 10, as Derek indicated, it's 51 Cleveland Lane, located in the former borough. I think Derek well covered the existing nonconformities, so we'll just talk about the bulk variances. First, for the setback for the pool, as Derek indicated, it's within the front yard, but there's also a secondary requirement that for a corner lot, you have to meet the required average front yard setback, which in this case is 72 feet. That is measured kind of down Library Place, and those homes that are a little bit to the north are set well back from the road, so that requirement for the average hurts here, and that 72 feet is what the average is to our north. So a couple of issues: front yard location, as well as that required setback. And then, of course, the setback for the generator as well. 8 feet is what we're proposing, or what exists, and 10 feet is required. So we'll first talk about the generator setback. I think this does qualify as a C1 hardship, in that the generator was relocated. As was indicated, a permit was sought for this. I think had zoning review occurred, obviously they could have relocated it 2 feet, but to dig up all the underground gas lines and electric lines at this point would be quite a chore just to get that 2 feet. So I think, given the facts of the permit being issued, thinking that, everything was fine, that does create a practical difficulty, as Mr. Sobel said, with, relocating it is not an easy thing. I think that, really the negative criteria issues here in terms of any impact to surrounding properties are pretty limited. Having been out at the property at least twice, I did drive by there again today. The fence that's there, it's a solid 6-foot fence. A portion of it is on top of an existing masonry wall that matches the finish of the home. It's kind of a stucco wall with a cap, and then that fence is on top of it. So you have a pretty solid visual barrier from Library Place. I would agree that anyone walking down Library Place, unless your eyes are greater than 6 feet off the ground, you're not really going to see, particularly the generator, because it's located relatively close to the fence. So if you were looking over, you probably would be looking right over the generator as well. So in terms of any impact to adjacent properties, particularly Library Place, it really won't rise to the level of being substantial because it won't be visible. I think the intent is to also install additional landscaping. There's significant landscaping that's on the inside of the fence. There's some tall, narrow trees that are there. There's also some, if you know what skip laurel are, they're kind of large broadleaf evergreen shrubs that stay green all year. There's some of those in that area as well. So visibility is really limited. So that should not rise to the level of being substantial in terms of impact. And then in terms of the intent of that setback, again, while it's not specifically referenced, it's generally to limit the impacts of visual impacts of the generator, perhaps some for noise. But we think, given that the generator will not be visible from Library Place, there really shouldn't be any substantial impairment to that intent. I think it was really, to get them out of, being visible and being too close to people's yards. But I think, given the conditions that we have on the site, that won't substantially impair that intent. Now, as for the pool setback, I think this also qualifies as a C1 hardship. As Mr. Sobel had indicated, there's a couple of factors working against us here. And I want to just go back to the aerial photograph if I could. So as you can see, this is a corner lot, Cleveland Lane here on the south side of the lot, and Library Place wrapping around the roundabout. This lot only has about 60 some odd feet of depth on this northern property line. And if you recall, can you see the plan now?
Yes.
Okay. So if you see on Mr. Fryer's plan, this is the resulting building envelope when you apply the required setbacks. It's very small triangle. So as you can see, the vast majority of the structure, probably more than 90%, is already in the front yard. You can also see this 60-foot dimension here on the northern property line. So when you apply that required setback, so again, two issues in the front yard, because everything forward the building to the street line is considered front yard. But then also that 72-foot setback requirement, it's just not possible to meet that really anywhere on this lot. The other competing factor, as Mr. Sobel had indicated, when the addition was put on in 2017, and I'm going to trace, it's this one-story addition on the north side here, consistent with the requirements at the time, there had to be stormwater management installed, and that facility is located on the northern side of this lot. So really, this makes for the best location from a practical perspective. But as Mr. Sobel pointed out, and I would agree, there's really nowhere you can put this pool on this property that would not require some kind of relief. So I think it's clear that a hardship does exist. As far as any negative criteria concerns here, I think while the pool doesn't meet that required setback, we do have the solid 6-foot fence that runs along Library Place. The pool is at grade level, so it's not a typical accessory structure like a shed that might be visible. So it should largely be out of view. Substantial landscaping again exists in this area. I'm sure there'll be more put in as well that will only enhance that buffer a little bit more. So there shouldn't be any impact, particularly visual impact, to Library Place or any of the homes on Library Place. And this location also kind of does a better job of addressing any potential impact to that property to the north on lot 15. And then as far as the intent and purpose of these standards, again, no specific rationale for the setbacks, but they're generally geared towards adequate light, air, open space, providing adequate separation for these types of uses, perhaps even limiting the prominence of accessory structures within the front yard. That's largely what these are likely geared towards. I think in this case, given the configuration of the lot, I think what is clearly a hardship in that there's no conforming location where this could go. And the existing fence, I don't think there'll be any substantial impairment to the intent of that standard, as it'll largely be hidden from view, which I think is what this was geared towards.
Thank you very much for your analysis.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman? We have no further testimony or exhibits to share with the board.
Okay. Are there any board members that have any question of the applicant or the witnesses?
I was wondering why you talked about several times the fact that it wouldn't be visible from the street or vice versa. Is that, I'm not sure why that's important.
Well, I think just in terms of the negative criteria impact of the variance for the setback, I think it's intended to, put these in certain places so they're not as visible, particularly maybe from a public street. So I want to just stress that I think the intent of the standards is not impaired because it's largely not visible to the public because of the fencing and the existing landscaping. So I think it really goes right to the negative criteria on the requested
I mean,
variance.
the mechanicals will still be noisy, whether or not there's a fence there. I guess you were focusing on those machines not being attractive, not the pool. That's what I got confused by, actually. I thought you were
Well, yeah, there's two issues.
talking about some kind of privacy issue. I didn't.
Right, no, but I think it is twofold. I think with the generator in particular, it's an issue of visibility. But again, it won't be visible. And then as far as the privacy, I think when you look at the intent of that standard for an accessory structure, not in the front yard, most people have pools in the rear of the house where they're not as visible, particularly from the street. So just to drive home the point that despite the request for the variance, we don't think there's any impact from it, or, it doesn't substantially impair the intent of those standards of keeping accessory structures like that out of view.
I had a question. It looks as if obviously they've gone to great pains to try and offset the new impervious by cutting back the pathways and whatnot. It doesn't appear that the concrete pad that the pool equipment is going to be set on has been accounted for in the impervious coverage. Just to make that point, or the concrete pad that the generator sits on.
And can you comment on that possibly?
So that's included under the calculation for the patio walkways concrete. The pool itself, yes. The pool itself was the 161 square feet. The pad was actually, if you look in the proposed, the 1,765 square feet, that's where that's calculated.
Okay.
So it's baked into that number?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see that part. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay,
I do have one question. Are any changes needed to that fence, the gate, or anything that needs to be reviewed?
We're not proposing any changes to the fence or the gate. Derek, are you there? I think we lost him. The question was raised, Derek, as to whether or not there are any revisions or changes made to the fence or the gate in conjunction with this application. I said, no, there would be no changes.
Bernice, are you okay with that?
Yeah, I don't know what kind of gate that is. I know that there are regulations about gates and pools, and it just, as long as it complies and doesn't need any zoning review, that's all I'm trying to confirm.
Okay, all right. Any other board member questions of the applicant or witnesses? All right, Mr. Rodolphe, we're going to go open this up to the public. Do you want to say anything before we do that?
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, but I think we have supplied all the information that's appropriate and necessary, and hopefully we have given all the information that is needed for this board to consider and approve our application for the two variances. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll open this portion of the hearing up to the public. Claudia, has anybody indicated they'd like to speak to this application?
There are no hands, but I have under questions and answers, there are some questions.
Okay, how do we bring that in?
Claudia, are these people in the audience who are asking these questions, and is it regarding this application?
They are in the audience, and it is regarding this application. I'm
All right,
trying to
well,
move them over to panelists.
Then we need to ask them to come forward. They can ask their question under oath and we'll answer it. Claudia, is Mr. or Ms. Tsai one of those people who posted a question?
It's the SS
Yes,
is one.
SS and Miss Deborah, you?
I think we should make it clear that if there are people in the audience who want to ask questions, they should either raise their hand or unmute themselves and show their faces on the screen.
Mr. or Ms. Sy, if you can hear this, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself? Oh,
Dropped off.
Okay.
okay, and I don't know SS, if that is, if under the initials SS, if you want to speak to this application, can you unmute yourself and again, introduce yourself?
There,
Okay.
did someone already say this? I mean, that there are several questions in the Q&A in the chat.
How,
Steve, I know, but we can't respond to those.
I know. I guess I heard you say that. Yeah, you said that already, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we were asking people.
Yeah.
You posted a question, so we need to put that on the record. So
Right.
just.
I understand.
log in.
Sorry,
No, that's okay. I'm.
no, we've never had that before where we've had questions posted.
yeah.
Well, if any of those people want to be heard, they have to raise their hands. If not, then we will have to move forward.
Steve,
Yes,
is there I see one of the neighbors, SS is Chevelle Shaw, 57 Cleveland. Is that person in the,
That must be who that is.
okay.
Are they in the audience? That person?
They are in the attendees, but they need to raise their hand so they can be brought over to this side.
But I have moved them to the panelists,
Yeah,
so they're at
they're
the
in-
bottom of the screen.
We're not.
They're on the screen. They're
Yeah.
on the screen at the bottom, but they're muted.
We have to assume they don't want to speak. We've given them plenty of time to do that. It's not that big an issue to unmute yourself.
Karen, I think we'll give it another minute maybe, and then we'll have to move on. Claudia, has been any other communication from this person?
No, no, sir.
Okay. Well, Karen, would it be appropriate to move on?
I think so. I mean, I'm looking at the one, comment is they don't understand the positive and negative criteria.
Yeah, and Karen, I can address that. We
How the
submitted a variance.
generator get moved without pre-approval? I think the applicant explained that it just got moved. They thought that it was fine and they didn't understand that it needed a variance. The other question is more.
Are we taking those questions now? I thought we
No,
weren't
you're right,
taking
you're right.
questions.
You're right. I think we've asked people to come forward and either they're not able to, or I'm not sure where they are. They're in the audience. One person though has been admitted, so I'm not sure why that person isn't speaking. Yeah, I think we can move forward.
Okay. All right. If there is no one else, Claudia, in the in the audience who would like to speak or has identified themselves, then we'll close the public portion of the hearing.
There are no hands.
Okay, we'll close the public portion of the hearing. Again, Mr. Rodolphe, do you want to say anything before we go into executive session?
No, again, I appreciate the opportunity, but no, not at this point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're in executive session. I like to say that I think the backyard in this home is very nicely done. I lived next door for a number of years. I moved long before the Sobels bought the house. And what I've seen of the backyard is a very nice improvement over what was there, which was nice to begin with. And I see no problem, quite frankly, with the plunge pool and the screening around it. So that's my comment.
I agree.
Mr. Kyle, just a quick clarification. So you're advancing this as both C1 and C2. I thought I heard you say that, but just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, no, I only provided the C1 testimony.
Okay.
Any other comments from any board members?
I agree with you, Stephen. I think it's a very nice, and it's a beautiful home. I think that they've done a lot to try and make the impervious work. They have the stormwater already in the back, and I think that the pool is going to be a nice addition to the house, certainly. And I think it's going to be well screened from the public, and I don't think it's going to provide any problems to any neighbors. So I'm in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Well, if there aren't, you're muted, Michael.
Yeah, I think it meets the C1 with the odd shaped lot, an undersized lot. And I think the drainage has been, there's no need to make any added drainage, as was explained, because they're reducing the impervious coverage to offset. I think the generator, is adequately or more than adequately screened. And of course, we all hope that the generator is only used like once every 15 years. So it's not going to be an ongoing piece of equipment always running. So I think with that much screening, it's okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, if someone would like to make a motion,
I'll make a motion to accept
thank you.
the
Do we have a
C1.
second? Anyone?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any comments on the motion? Questions?
I just have one question as to the total area, just because I see two different. I see 171 and 161, so whichever one is the correct one. I just wanted to have that confirmed.
Is this for the pool?
Yeah, I just see two different numbers. So I think in their report it's 161, but the plan that I was just looking at had it at, the P2 sheet has it at 171.
Oh, I only see 161 on the plan that I put up.
Okay.
Do you see that number in another location?
Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
the sheet that says P2. It's actually an enlarged plan. Sheet A11,
Yeah,
the
sheet
file
A11.
name P2. So we'll pull P2.
That might have, Dan, that might have been an old plan. I think the the plan that we put up tonight, the February 11th, 2022.
Yeah,
I'll share it real quick. So this was, because we did, I think, revise the plan at some point.
the plan was revised just to give the dimensions of the generator off the setback, or the setback dimensions.
Oh, so maybe I have the older plan.
No, this, if you pan up. Oh yeah, this is the older plan. But still, it's still listed at 161. I can share mine if you'd like.
Should we say not more than 171 square feet?
Plans say 161, I think, right? Your engineering plans are 161, Dan, so.
Yes.
Yeah, the engineering says 161, the architectural says 1.
I would go with the engineer. I think it's a landscape architect or a designer, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. So
Okay,
if the applicant's agreeable to the,
That's fine, yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Thank you, Bernice. That was good pick there. All right, Claudia, do you want to call the roll?
Jen,
yes.
Colson,
Yes,
Davich,
Yes.
Loy,
Yes,
Shriver,
Yes.
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank
very
you,
much,
everyone.
everybody.
Have
Appreciate
a
it.
good evening.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Bye.
Take care.
Okay. All right. Moving along, our next case is 14 Wilton Street, Block 65, Lot 5307 in the R3 zone, and it's case number Z22-192. Karen, is all the notification in order?
It is. The board has jurisdiction tonight.
Thank you. Derek, could you summarize your memo?
thank you, Chairman, certainly. Dylan Robbins, excuse me, is the owner and applicant of 14 Wilton Street. It's located in the R3 zone in the former Princeton Borough. He's seeking a C1 variance to permit the construction of an attic addition in exception to the required height to setback ratio and the smaller and combined side yard setbacks. The subject lot is non-complying with regard to the 7,200 square foot required lot area. The existing is 3,314 square feet, and it's non-complying with respect to the 60-foot lot width requirement. The existing is 27.85 feet. And the house itself is non-complying with the smaller side yard setback of 8. It has an existing 0 setback. There's a property line that runs down the middle of this semi-detached house. The combined side yard setback is non-complying. It requirement's 20 and the existing is 9.64. Then the building height to setback is non-complying. It's 4.5 to 1 is the requirement, and where the house meets the other house, it's completely non-complying. The applicant is proposing to construct a approximately 477 square foot attic addition to the attic area. Obviously, the addition will provide 2 additional bedrooms and a full bath. And the project is really considered an increase in the existing degree of non-compliance. And it violates the required 8-foot smaller side yard setback, which would be between the 2 houses. The proposal is 0. And it increases the existing degree of non-compliance with the combined side yard setback. The requirement's 20, and the existing and proposed will be 9.64. And it also increases the existing degree of non-compliance with a 4.5 to 1 height to setback ratio. The applicant has requested consideration under the C1 criteria. That's a synopsis of my memo. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Berger? Okay.
yeah.
Yes,
I have a
Mike.
question. just, I'm a little confused. Are duplexes are permitted as of right?
It's permitted in the, you're right, it's not permitted in this, but it's a single family house. It has a lot down the middle, so it's a single family house. It's not a duplex, it's just an anomaly of our code. We don't have a 0 lot line. The lot line goes right down the middle of the house. So if it was a 2-family on one single lot, it wouldn't be permitted. In the R3, it is permitted. You need 10,000 square feet, so.
Okay, I think, yeah, you say it's an anomaly. I think, yeah, it has to be. You allow a 2-family, but you can't allow a 0 lot line.
I agree, but
Okay.
it's a
I
good
just
question.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? All right, who is going to represent this case?
Hi, yeah, I am. I'm the applicant. My name is Dylan Robbins.
Mr. Robbins, before you start testifying, we need to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, so we moved into the house in 2015, my family and I. Now as our family has grown and our kids have gotten older, we were looking for ways of having more space for us in our structure. We've explored a number of different options in Princeton, the possibility of moving to a larger place so that we wouldn't have to change our kids from schools. And just it's not really a viable option for us. The best possibility is to build an addition onto our attic, or an attic space addition, to bump it out, as they say, in order to create space for 2 additional bedrooms and an additional bath. Right now, our house is technically a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a not fully finished attic space. I'm in it now. It's not considered fully finished because it's not heated and so forth. But that we also use as a study and a bedroom. And the idea would be that this space be converted into 2 bedrooms and a bathroom in order to have the space for our family. So I prepared a slideshow. I submitted it as an exhibit, and I'd like to share my screen if it's okay to kind of go through the plan a little bit and what the design is. Is that okay? Can I share my screen, Claudia?
Yes, you may.
Great. So
Mr. Robbins, we'll make this an exhibit then. We'll make it exhibit A1.
great. Thank you.
Mhm.
Wonderful. So yeah, so just to kind of summarize the existing conditions, this is the front of the house. It is just in response to the question that was asked earlier about the duplex. It is deeded as a separate family attached, the question Mr. Floyd asked of Mr. Bridger earlier. And here is the rear view of the house from the back of our yard. And this is the side view of our house, sort of an awkward picture to share with all of you because of the very narrow driveway and that very short, side yard setback. And I'll show you in just a second on the actual survey of the property what the measurements are.
Let me interrupt just a minute. Can you, I think if you hit the slideshow button at the top of your screen, you'll get a bigger picture.
Great. Yeah, I'll try that. My experience is that then all of a sudden I can't see you, but let me see. Yeah, let me if I can let me just see if I can
That works for us, whether it works for you or not.
yeah, I can't see my other screen now. So where I have my notes present.
Then take it back. Take it back to what works for you.
All right, cool. But now I can't see anybody. I don't know if you can see me, but hello?
Yeah, we can see you.
Let's see.
Oh, cool. All right. I'm not sure why it does that, but Sorry about that. I'll try zooming in a bit. So this is the side view of the house from the driveway, and then this is a photo taken from the backyard of my neighbor on the left side of the house, John Morrow, and showing more or less where that would be, if you can kind of imagine looking through the trees. So then this is a floor plan of the existing conditions here in the attic. It's largely an open area.
Mr. Robbins, did you draw this?
No, an architect did, Jay Hengeli.
Okay.
Yeah, why did you ask? I mean,
No, I'm
I'm
just.
totally not into drawing, but yeah.
That's fine. Normally we just.
Any
ask-
drawing, you'll totally know it's mine. If one appears, it'll be very clear. Yeah. No, but yeah, these are his. When I cropped it, you can't see now the other, but the plans that were submitted as part of the application are the full plans with all the details on it. So, so there we go. And then, so then this is after this is the front elevation after it is to be made. There will be no alteration to the facade at all. And this is the addition. It will merge with the existing roof structure. It will not cross over this hip. In fact, this face of it will not touch the hip. It'll be clear from the side elevation and from the roof plan what that is. And here it is from the side of the attic addition. What it'll look like, it'll merge with this front existing, I think that's called the doghouse dormer that's there, and extend down the remainder of the side of the house before wrapping around and merging with the rear dormer. And this is the rear elevation right here. And the idea is that it wraps around and merges here with the existing dormer there. And if we look at the roof plan, I think it'll be a little clearer, the geometry of it and how it blends in or otherwise merges with the existing roof structure. So the idea is, so here's that hip on the front face of the roof, that this roof will be flush with that of the extension here, or the addition will be flush with it. But will adhere to the same angle, obviously, of this existing dormer where it meets the roof. And then we'll extend out and then around again, and then to what will merge with the front face of the rear dormer, right? That slope there. Yeah. And then so the floor plan, at least provisional, this is still up for reconsideration and revision based upon some other things with the contractor. But essentially what we're going to do is to create a small bathroom here at the top of the stairs in the attic, as well as 2 bedrooms. This one, of course, will still have the slanted roof for most of it, but this one will have the newer more walls and no longer a knee wall in it. So then the conditions of our request or of our application are based upon this positive criteria. So I'm going to zoom in really quickly just to show the plot plan here, the survey. You can see this is the existing structure here. This is the property line dividing our house from the neighboring house. This is the paved driveway, and you can see our setback is just under 10 feet for that side yard. So here's the table. It's included, in fact, in the original memo, indicating just how undersized our lot is and just how much of a hardship we're currently in with our building not being compliant with the existing setback requirements. But overall, The requirement is that we have 8 feet of smaller side yard setback, and the existing on one side is 0 and on the other side is just under 10 feet. And then the combined side yard setback is at 9.64 feet. And the building height to setback ratio is 4.5 to 1, and the building as it is non-compliant. So as Mr. Bridger said in his report at the beginning, is that really this variance is not a question of whether or not the building will be will be compliant with the setback requirements or not. It will just be a question of to what extent will it be. Yeah. I'd also like to make a point that, this will not be changing the FAR at all, and will not be increasing, and some of these details I'll point out later on. So will not be increasing the overall or the impervious coverage or the overall footprint of the building. So on to some negative criteria. Just to kind of give a sense of the neighborhood where this house is. Here is the key map, and all the green dot here is 14 Wilton, our house, and all the blue dots are houses that have been modified with additions or with dormers, both. And all the red dots are new construction, meaning houses have been torn down and replaced with new construction. I just wanted to kind of put this there to get a clear sense of just what the character of the neighborhood is that our house is in. I don't know how unusual this is or how, common this is for the rest of Princeton. But the norm in the neighborhood is precisely change. It's not Bank Street, right? And I just wanted to kind of put that out there, really to contextualize what we're asking to do or what we're applying for. Some other projects similar to ours or on Maple Street, 15 and 17 Maple, and had a wonderful conversation with both of these folks about their project. You can see they have a very large addition on their 3rd floor, which also brought them 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. And then the neighbors on the 17 Maple decided to do a different kind of addition for a different kind of space. They have more of a workspace and a study there rather than bedrooms and a bathroom. And nonetheless have a similar kind of attic expansion and addition, right? Right across the street from them is, and of course, we're not proposing to change the facade at all, but more just anything to just kind of show how dormers and attic extensions are part of the vernacular of how people modify their spaces in Princeton and, allow them to adapt to evolving needs of our homes. Many of these homes, as we know, were built quite some time ago, and that's certainly not the case for our street, in fact, but I'll talk about that in just a second. The conditions and needs for many of these structures have changed over the years from, we no longer need the coal hopper at the very front of the house. The gas pipes for gas lights in my house are no longer working. And there's a number of ways in which, we adapt our structures to meet our needs as they evolve historically, right? And so here's some other solutions that other of our neighbors have come up with. I was really intrigued by this one in 94 Linden, which is a similar wraparound dormer or attic addition. She was very nice and she let me take a look at it, how it was built inside. It was a really, really interesting addition to their attic. They gave them a lot of space. It's just on this side of the building. They don't have one on the other side. Then some projects here, Jack, some things just here on Wilton, on our very street. There's another duplex here on 22 Wilton, where there's a dormer here built on the left side of this house, and there's not one on the right side. As those neighbors decided to, I guess, not expand their attic at one point. So, and then here's another house at 30 Wilton where this has been bumped out on the front, changing the facade, certainly a less disruptive. I mean, what we're proposing is less disruptive to the look of the house from the front. Here's a recent addition, also asymmetrical, similar to ours, or not similar, ours, but asymmetrical like ours is, that was just recently approved and which is being done on South Harrison, in which this addition is being built over an existing sunroom. And then finally on 9 Sergeant Street, this project was completed. I think many of you are probably familiar with it, but it was a smaller house that had attic addition that effectively added a second floor to it and changed very significantly the roof line of the entire dwelling. And just to kind of just reiterate how important structures like the ones we're proposing are for residents in Princeton. I just made a list here. It's nowhere near exhaustive of other examples around town of similar attic extensions or additions and dormers. And to just repeat what I had already said, it's just one of the really common ways that here in Princeton and in other towns around us with similar structures, in which people adapt their structures to meet their needs. Finally, the benefits, the final benefits. So the adjacent trees will not be damaged or harmed. I'm going to, make sure that as construction takes place, that proper protections are in place and just the minimum necessary branches, if necessary at all, that are currently over a roof are trimmed back. There will be no increase in impervious coverage. We will be effectively building within the existing footprint. We are in fact moving for what is an ultimately more efficient type of dwelling. We're going to have, a greater livable and usable square footage on the very same footprint. Finally, this kind of extension will functionally or effectively decrease the density by increasing the square footage for what are the same number of occupants for this house. The design adheres to the New Jersey Green Building Manual, Rutgers University. This is a conversation with the architect as well. It increases the natural light in this area that I'm already using, or we already use regularly, but only with the privilege of 2 windows here, or the possibility, as well as ventilation in the space, which will be really important. It'll also be an opportunity to upgrade the insulation in the windows of this space, as well as to heat and cool it with a more efficient unit. And we will be using salvage materials for interior finishing from an architectural antique guy. I don't know what you call him, but anyway, this guy in South Jersey. So so we can find stuff that matches what's inside already as much as possible. And so finally, one of the strong reasons that we like to do this is because, I have a large family. I have 4 kids. When we moved here, they were younger. And it was before the pandemic. They've grown to the point to where they're starting to need the space. And we would hope that that the hardship provided by the lot and also by the difficulties of maneuvering in a market like Princeton to buy more space would be taken into consideration so that we can kind of see to it that these folks get some of the more space that they needed. And if you'll just bear with me, someone wanted to say what they're interested in here. Yeah. So yeah, come on over. Yeah. Yeah. Hi. Hi.
So I think this remodeling would be very useful to me.
Excuse me, Karen, would we have to swear him in?
I was going to ask Mr. Robbins, is that your son, Mr. Robbins?
Oh, yes, that is. Yeah.
Okay, is he testifying or would you like him to be testifying?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Can we just have your name, please?
I'm Leonie Robbins.
Okay, and do you swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you.
So I think this remodeling would be very important because I'm a rising junior. I'm almost 16 years old and I don't have my own room. I think everybody, especially high schoolers, deserve privacy and a place in their home where they can be alone and get homework done. So that's why it'd be useful to me.
Thank you.
Mr. Robbins, do you know approximately when your home was built?
1906.
Thank you.
You want to stop sharing your screen so we can see?
Sure.
Thank you.
I'd like to be able to get my own room, mainly for privacy, but also because I'd have more space to do
Okay,
things.
Mr. Robbins, if all your kids are going to testify, how old is this young man? And your other son's in high school. How old is this young man?
13.
13. Well, that's old enough. Okay, can we have your full name?
Felix Robbins.
Felix. Okay, Felix. And do you swear or affirm any testimony you give tonight will be truthful?
You have to say yes or no.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Just whatever you want to say.
Okay.
Want to say?
I'd like to be able to get my own room because I'd have more space to put my things, and I'd also have more privacy.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Oliver Robbins.
Mr.
No.
Mr. Robbins, how old is this young man?
I'm 11 years old.
11. Board members, I'm not sure what the cutoff is for a young person to testify. I leave it up to you. If you would like this young man to testify, I'll swear him in.
Yes?
Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. What's your first name again?
My name is Oliver.
Oliver. Okay, Oliver, and do you swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel it is appropriate, this extension to the house, because I would be able to get my own room and I would be definitely more organized and I'd have my own space to do my work without anybody interrupting.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. My daughter doesn't want to talk, but she feels probably similarly. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's the end of my presentation.
You're a little, can you speak a little louder, please?
Oh yeah, I think that's the end of my presentation. There's a neighbor contacting me that wanted to join the meeting but can't get in because of some issues. Can I call them on speakerphone and have
No.
them? No?
No.
All right.
If they
All
want to testify, they'll have to dial in, and if they're having an issue, Claudia, I think your number's out there in the notice, but we can.
Yeah,
give
it's all
you a
right.
number
Thank
for
you.
again.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Robbins, you're done with your presentation?
I am, thanks.
Okay. Do any of the board members have any questions of Mr. Robbins and his witnesses? Okay, all right. Hearing no questions, Mr. Robbins, we're going to open this up to the public for comment.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we're going to open the public portion of the meeting now. Claudia, has anybody indicated they'd like to speak on this application?
Yes, I have 2 hands. I have 3 hands.
Okay,
1 second.
let people in. Okay. Karen, can you swear in Ms. Cho?
I can. Ms. Chauffeurs, could we get your address, please?
Yes, hi, good evening. 74 Robert Road.
All right, and do you swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening to the board. Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Cho, and I'm a neighbor in the Riverside area and a homeowner on Robert Road. Our family has known the Robbins family since we moved here 6 years ago, and our children attended Riverside together. And I personally know all of their children. It was a delight to see some of them tonight, and they are a really lovely family and model neighbor. I just wanted to support their application because their need for this attic addition goes well beyond just even comfort or convenience or luxury or real estate value. I think everyone knows that privacy, health, and wellness is attached to having one's own space, regardless of the size. And I hope that they can meet their children's needs while utilizing the same footprint. I just also want to say, you know, the Robbins have been an asset to the neighborhood, the school and the community. Dylan himself is a very engaged citizen. He's been active leading the local Boy Scout troop, and he's been a leader in advocating for the health and safety measures at the schools that affect the staff, students, and the broader community. I just hope that they'll be able to stay in their home and meet their kids' needs, especially since it's on the same footprint and it is their single family home. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Who's the next to speak? Mr. Sass?
Yes, I could speak.
Mr. Sass, could we get your address and then we'll swear you in?
Okay, I'm at 511 Cherry Hill Road in Princeton.
Okay. And do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Please proceed.
Okay, I also joined to support Dylan. I'm the Scoutmaster for Princeton Group 43. And Dylan's also a leader. You know, I worked with his son even in Cub Scouts, so it's been a number of years. Now his sons are currently in Boy Scouts in our troop, and his wife and daughter actually went on a camp out with us this weekend as well. So Dylan's been doing all the outdoor planning, which fortunately we're able to start going outside in the last couple months. You know, during COVID, our troop was not active outside. We tried to keep things going with Zoom and other ways. And you know, our troop got fairly small, but we're starting to grow again, and it would be a blow to scouting in Princeton if Dylan wasn't there. Just wanted to make sure him and his family are happy and can remain in Princeton, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Karen, who would be next?
I don't know. It's Mr.
Oh,
Morrow.
I'm sorry, Claudia.
I don't know.
We have Mr. Morrow and Mrs. Prenton.
Prenton. Okay, Mr. Morrow.
Yes?
Yeah,
Can you
we
hear me?
can hear you. We can't see you though.
Well, that's okay.
Well,
You
no,
can't-
not okay. Not okay for us though. We need to be able to see you, sir.
Okay, then let's see. Let me see if I can,
There you go.
There you go.
oh,
All
there we
right.
go.
If we
All
could
right.
have your address, Mr. Morrow.
I'm at 401 Nassau Street.
Alrighty. And do you swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, please proceed.
I just want to say, you know, our property is right next door. We have no objections. You know, as I said, the only thing I'm concerned about is I want to make sure, as you saw from some of those pictures, we have a bunch of very nice trees between our property and theirs. We have a nice brick wall between our property and theirs. As long as none of those are damaged during the construction, we have no objections.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add, or is
No,
that?
that's it, that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and then is it Kathleen Printon?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
We
can
need to
you,
see
can you engage your monitor so we can see you?
There you go. Ms.
That
Prince,
work?
would
Okay.
It's your address, please.
205 Beach Avenue, Bradley Beach, New Jersey.
Oh, okay. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm on to support the addition for the Robbins family. I met them in 2015 when they bought this home. I actually sold them the home. I'm a realtor that works in Princeton, Caldwell Banker. And clearly their children have grown and they're definitely have a need for a larger home. And I feel like looking at all the plans, I was able to study them because Dylan emailed me the plans earlier and look at the roof line. And they really did such a thoughtful job with the architectural plans. And I feel like with them keeping the facade in conjunction with the house next door, I feel that it would be a great addition for them and also for the neighborhood. So I just wanted to show my support for the family. They're lovely, lovely family, contributing to the community. And I love that they want to stay in that home and keep it historic the way it is, you know, since it's almost over 100 years old. I can't say enough about them, and I'm hoping that the board would allow them to continue with this project so that they can keep their kids happy. And I think when all the kids are happy and healthy and thriving, that makes for a happy family. And they do love Princeton, and I hope that they can stay there and enjoy this home.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Okay, Claudia, do we have anyone else who'd like to speak?
There are no more hands.
Okay, thank you all. All right, I'm going to close the public portion of the hearing. And Mr. Robbins, if you'd like to make a closing statement, after this, we will go into executive session and discuss your case.
Wanted to thank the board for the consideration of my application. I also wanted to thank Mr. Bridger and Claudia and Ms. Ceballos as well for their help in putting together the application. And I also wanted to thank my neighbors and fellow community members for coming out. And
You're drifting off there a little.
And I also wanted to thank my neighbors and fellow community members for coming out and speaking on behalf. So thank you. That's all. But
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, board members, let's go into executive session. And are there any comments, questions, or would someone like to make a motion? Personally, I think this is a very modest addition. It apparently is needed. And I think one of the mitigating factors is the large trees to the left of the driveway will remain and screen this from the adjacent neighbor on the other side of the trees. And I think it would be a nice addition to the home and very useful.
I agree. I also think the homeowner made a nice presentation.
Excuse me, Stephen?
I think the homeowner made a nice presentation.
I think so. Yes. Anyone else like to comment? Question?
I support it as well. Bernice, I don't know what happened to my video. Oh, there it goes. Okay.
Okay.
His kids sold me. That was all I need to hear. No, I'm just kidding. It's a
I
good
move we
presentation.
accept the application.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll
do we have a
second.
second?
I'll second.
Jim? Any, Claudia, Eve, did you want to say something? You're muted.
You're muted.
No wonder you didn't hear me say I seconded it so quickly.
Oh, okay,
I'll defer to Mr. Davidge, though.
Oh, you
Okay.
can.
It's muted.
very good.
Question for board members. Since the retention of these trees seems to have been important to the board, do you want that to be a condition?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
I'm sorry, who moved the,
Mr. Davidge.
Mr. Davish moved
Oh,
it
seconded it.
and,
No, Shriver moved and Davidge seconded, I believe.
right,
thank you.
okay. Claudia, are there any other comments on the motion? Or the amendment to it? Okay, Claudia, can you call the roll?
Ann,
Yes.
Ms. Coulson,
Yes.
Mr. Davidge,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mr. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes. Karen, Derek, board members, I'm going to recuse myself from this next application. And Stephen Schreiber is going to take over.
Okay, Steve, that's fine. Thank you.
And I'm going to take over by taking a 5-minute break. We will resume at 10 o'clock.
Thank you, everyone.
Good move.
Nie mam zagrać. O tak, jestem bardzo wygodny. Tak. O tu, prawo. Dla mnie musi tu być takie podbicie dobre. Okej, to ja przyjdę, bo ja idę tam. Składam to.
Okay, are we all back? Looks like we are. Let me just make sure which. This is 9 Morgan Place, correct?
Correct.
Karen, are we in order for this?
We are. The noticing is in order and the board has jurisdiction tonight.
Thank you very much. Derek, will you present the case, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Herb Waberowitz is the owner applicant of 9 Morgan Place, is seeking a C1 and C2 variance to permit construction of a second floor addition and exception to the required side yard setbacks and the height to setback ratio. Property is located in the R5 zone in the former Princeton Township and subject to the bulk regulations in accordance with sections 10B, 246, 253, 255, and 255.2 of the former Princeton Township Land Use Ordinance. Single family use is permitted as of right. The subject lot is non-complying with regard to the 21,780 square foot requirement. The existing is 9,800. The lot width requirement's 100. The existing is 70 feet, and the lot frontage is the same. Existing is 70, requirements 100. The property itself is non-complying with regard to the left side yard setback, requirements 15 feet. The existing is 7.8 feet. The right side yard requirement is also 15. The existing is 3.9, and the height to setback on both the right and left side is 1-to-1, and the existing is non-compliant. The applicant is proposing to construct a 900 plus or minus square foot second floor dormer addition and a rear addition. The rear addition is permitted as of right. The new second floor space will replace 2 existing bedrooms and a full bath with 3 bedrooms and full bath and a powder room. The dormer additions require the following variances. The left side yard setback requirement is 15. The proposed will be 9.6 feet, and the height to setback requirement is 1-to-1, and the proposed is 1 to 0.492. And they've requested consideration under both the C1 and the C2 criteria. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Bridger. Any questions for Mr. Bridger? Who is representing the case tonight?
I am a cousin for Hubert Verzbovich, and he's unfortunately not available today. And he had previously had planned a trip, personal trip with the family, about 3 or 4 months ago, and unfortunately happens tonight. So I will be representing him as well.
Okay, we'll swear you in, Karen.
Yes, sir. Could we get your name first?
Dariusz Falkowski.
Okay, and I believe that Mr. Werbowitz signed an authorization. I think I saw that. So we will swear you in. Do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead with your testimony, presentation, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, number one thing, guys, I didn't realize you working out so late to 10 o'clock at night or more. So I do give you a lot of applause for this. So, I am not an expert in any way, in any means on giving you all the calculations and everything else. But when I was originally helping Hubert to generate this idea of how this project can go on, originally we had started to thinking about trying to retrofit this whole house and going with the full renovation of every component of the house. But then really quickly we had realized how unsafe and how unsturdy the rear addition was, and had inspected with some professionals to find out there were no footings in the back. So we kind of like decided to, after talking to some people who've been in this field, to realize this whole back addition has to be turned down just because of we had no footings. So while we had came up with an idea of demo, the building in the back of the house, we also had says, why don't we just add on more of the closet areas and everything else what comes with it, not without increasing any footprint for the house and also without increasing any improvements area, which I think is important. So we did come out with an idea of just creating a same footprint for the back on that addition to create a bigger kitchen and make a bigger bedroom on the second story, which would allow us to have 3 bedrooms on the third story and a 1 bedroom in first story with the office room and a powder room, which doesn't exist right now. So that's where that idea came up from. You know, we've been struggling. I mean, obviously, Hubert's been struggling with this back and forth financial as well to see if that's going to work for him and for his family and his daughter mainly, because that's really what the biggest purpose was for his daughter moving in eventually after when she finished her college and finished her all graduations and everything else. So we are proposing 4-bedroom home with the same configuration as existing, with an addition of adding 1 extra full bathroom on the second floor. No increases of impervious coverage, graded, more lighting, more installation. Is just the building better overall and a better definite appearance in the front, which I think where the problem had came around to increase the height area and livable space in the front of the building. And I guess that's why we are here today talking about this. We feel like overall newly renovated home will fit within the neighborhood. You know, to my knowledge, the neighbors across the street just recently got the variance to building a dormers in the front, and without having any change of the building, the way it looks from the front, with an exception of make the dormer look bigger, we're definitely going to fit into the neighborhood with any disruption with the neighbors to make it look any different than everybody else's on the street. And I guess that would conclude my testimony about the projects. And you know, please, guys, you know, be free to ask me the questions. Hopefully, I have the answers.
Thank you for the presentation. Do you want to talk us through the slides you presented, or?
Mr. Falkowski, do you have your architect here tonight?
Yeah, we're supposed to have an architect, Cliff Horner, on the line somewhere, and he's
Yeah, we
supposed.
see Mr. Horner. Mr. Horner, were you planning on testifying regarding whatever slides the applicant has for tonight?
Yes, I can present
Okay.
whatever.
All right.
Good.
Sir,
Go ahead.
if you could just tell us, are you the architect of record?
Yes,
And are you a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey?
yes.
All right. And approximately how many years of experience do you have?
I've been licensed for over 20 years.
All right. Mr. Schreiber, ordinarily their attorney would ask, can he be accepted as an expert? So
I think we
does
can
the board have
accept
any
it.
problem accepting? Okay, great.
No.
Okay. All right, Mr. Horner, I don't know who has the slide presentation.
I can,
If it was previously presented, or who can open up their screen so that the board can see it.
I can share my screen.
All right, go ahead.
This is a picture of the existing house, the front elevation from the street.
Mr. Horner, before I hate to interrupt you. I don't know how many slides you have, but we could maybe make these collectively exhibit A1. Do you know how many slides are here?
It'll just be the one picture, and then I'll show the cover sheet of the drawings.
Okay, so we have a photo. All right, thank you.
So this is just to give you a context, this is the front elevation. The the eyebrow dormer would be in the front. There'd be no height increase for this dormer. The only variance we're looking for is on the side, the height to setback ratio. There's an existing height to setback ratio non-compliance. This will not be any more non-compliant. Might be easier if I can share the just give me 1 second. Let me pull up the plan. Can you see this screen?
No. There we go.
This is the new front elevation, and it shows the setback ratio. This is the required line. The existing, since the house already sits 7.8 feet away from the property line, the new addition would start 9.6 feet away from the property line. This is the existing site plan. This is the addition in the back that was done that doesn't have a footing underneath it. The new addition would be in the back. The area of the house will be increasing from just a little over 1,800 square feet to a little over 2,300 square feet, but we're well below the FAR allowed for the lot. Right now, the existing FAR is 18% and the new's 23.5, and we're allowed 31.
And you're looking at the first floor on this slide, and right above it is the second floor. Will you just slide back up to that one?
Sure. This is the existing second floor.
Okay.
This is the existing first floor.
Okay.
And the roof plan. I'll go to the new plan. This is the new first floor. So it'll stay a 4-bedroom house, but now it'll have 2 full bathrooms and 2 half baths. So this is the new first floor with master bedroom, master bathroom, and closet. This is the new second floor. There'll now be 3 bedrooms on the second floor, a full bath and a half bath. This is the existing side elevation. This is the new side elevation. The elevation to the left is the existing. This is the new front elevation. And then this is, again, to the left is the existing. This is the new on the right side. And bottom 2 are the existing rear elevation and the new rear elevation. But the front elevation, I think the new addition keeps in context with the neighborhood. I think it works well with the streetscape out there. And there's been some other dormer additions in the neighborhood.
Okay, anything else?
No, any questions?
Board members, any questions for this presentation? Hearing none, do you want to give a summary before we open up to the public, or have you said all you'd like to say?
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now open the public comment. You can close your share, screen share. Claudia, is there any public comment?
There are no hands.
Okay, we'll give 10 more seconds. Okay, we will close the public comment. Again, do you have a closing comment before we go into executive session? All right, we will now go into executive session. Thank you. Comments? Motions?
I think this is a neighborhood that we have looked at a case or two before, and this, is that right?
Yes.
To my point, in my view of things, it looked like what was going to be done would fit in nicely with the neighborhood, would be an improvement.
Thank you. Other comments?
It seems
Motions?
quite reasonable to me. I mean, it looks like it's just a side yard setback that's so very minimal type of disruption, and seems like it would be a worthwhile addition and in keeping with the neighborhood.
Good, thank you, James. Anyone else? Motion?
I move to approve this.
Thank you, Ms. Colson. Second? Anyone?
Sure, I'll second it.
Mr. Davidge, you beat Ms. Chen nicely there. Any other questions before we take a vote? Any comments? Claudia, you want to take the roll, please?
Ken,
Yes.
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
Floyd,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Shiver.
Yes. So that's approved. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I mean, I'm sure he was gonna be gladly hearing the outcomes, and we will make sure, he will bring this house out to the speed with the neighborhood is, and everyone's gonna be happy out there to making sure everyone's happy at the end.
Well, you did a terrific job of filling in for him, so thank you very much.
I wasn't quite ready for that kind of crowd and everything else, but I did my best.
No, you and your architecture did just fine. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Steve, you coming back now for the next one?
Okay, Stephen, thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Next time, Steve, don't give me quite so much warning.
I'm sorry?
Next time, don't give me quite so much warning.
Okay, well, we have two more applications. It's 10:18. Let's push on. We'll see how long this next one takes. Okay, our next application is 263 Hawthorne Avenue, block 31.03, lot 53, in the R3 zone, case number Z22-201. Karen, is the notifications in order?
It is, and the board has jurisdiction tonight.
Thank you. Derek, can you summarize your memo?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Marcus Holtman is the owner of 263 Hawthorne Avenue, and he is applying for a C2 variance to permit the construction of an entry vestibule in exception to the required front yard setback. Property is located in the R3 zone in the former borough, subject to the use and bulk regs of 17A, 242, 246, and 403. The existing single-family use is permitted as of right, and the subject lot and property are complying with respect to the applicable bulk requirements. The applicant is proposing to construct a 9x10 entry vestibule, which will encroach into the required 25-foot yard setback, 25-foot setback, excuse me. the proposed setback will be 20 feet 3 inches, and that's to the overhang. And he's requesting a C2 variance for this. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to address them.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions of Mr. Bridger? Okay, Mr. Holtmack, Mark, I'm sorry, are you going to make the presentation?
Yes, and I will be representing myself.
Okay, please begin.
Mr. Holmack, before you start testimony, we just have to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, may I share the screen?
Yes, please.
All right, let's see. All right, can you see this is full screen for you?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, so thank you so much, and thank you, Mr. Bridger, for the summary, the memo. My name is Marcus Hultmark. I'm the homeowner of a small house on Hawthorne Avenue, 263 Hawthorne. I live there with my family, wife, and 2 kids. I didn't bring them today; they're sleeping, but they would be too young to testify anyway. And let me just, if you haven't been on Hawthorne Avenue, it's a sort of quiet street, it's calm. The only thing that makes it less quiet are the kids playing in the front and also the back of the houses and on the sidewalks. And it actually is part of the reason why we're requesting this addition of an entry vestibule. So at some point, oops, let's see, there we go. At some point, I believe it was in the 60s, this house was remodeled. It was built around 1940 from the beginning. And the 60s remodel sort of took out a lot of the interior walls and opened it up and actually made it much more efficient in terms of living space and the use of space. But it did remove all closets in the front. So there are no entry closets of any kind. And as you can see on the picture on the right here, this is our main entry, and it goes basically right into our dining room and also the living room. So they're together, as you can see on the drawing. It's a fairly small house. It's 1,400 square feet. And this, now I come back to the kids and the playing kids, and we have 2 children. They're growing. Our daughter is 7. The street is really fun for them. Kids run in and out of houses, but it also means mud and clothes and accessories come in and out of houses. And I didn't take a picture of the entryway in action, but there will be shoes and there will be jackets all over. So we are. And I also want to point out that this is the house from the outside. And you can see the front door here, and you can imagine the dining room on the right-hand side and the living room on the left-hand side. So what we're proposing to do is to create an entry vestibule where we can actually have 2 closets where we can hang up clothes, and we can have the kids and guests, of course, sort of use to put down the clothes and hang it up, and then come into our living space. And we're proposing to build this 9 outwards. So we'll build 9 foot in front of the house, plus 9 inches of overhang, and it will be 10 foot wide. And it will have these 2 closets, and it will have sort of wraparound, not complete wraparound, but partial on the sides and glass on the front to also increase the lights. And we believe that this is also, if you look at the current front, we believe that it will also actually improve the aesthetic of the house as it is. I think it's a very cute house. If you look on this is just a sampling of houses on the street. On the top right picture is what we see from our front lawn. You can see there are porches. Some of them are open, some of them are closed. So I think this sort of entry vestibule addition will fit really nicely into the neighborhood, and it also make the house much more usable and user-friendly for us. That's it. That's my presentation. Thank you.
Mr. Hallmark, we'll just mark that as Exhibit A1, so it's all your slides together.
Yep, and that's also the one that was posted online.
Okay, great.
Okay, can you minimize your screen there, please? Okay, board members, do you have any questions of the applicant? I have one, just Mr. Holtmark. Are you gonna, the front picture you took was inside of the hedge line that's on the street. Are you gonna maintain that planting there?
At the front hedge?
Yeah.
Around? Yeah, no, that's nothing will change with the bushes. And actually, there's also in the front there is a hedge, and then in front of both of the front windows there are two bushes. Everything will be in place, and actually the vestibule will sort of be set in between these two sort of bushes or whatever. I don't actually know what it is. Something between a bush and a tree.
Okay, well, okay, the planting's gonna be maintained, that's good.
Yes.
Yeah, because it creates a nice foreground for the addition.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else have any? Oh, Michael?
Yeah, I appreciate the pictures that you showed of the houses across the street, but that I don't believe that that's representative of the houses on your side of the street or the setbacks.
No, it's not representative of the setbacks on our street. No, the setbacks are, if you draw a line, basically all the houses on our side of the street, they were built, there were maybe a couple of exceptions, but they were built pretty much at the same time. And they have drawn a line and they follow exactly the 30-foot, and Mr. Bridger can correct me, but I think the prevailing setback is like 29.7. So it's or something like that. I believe you mentioned for me. So some of them have added things in the front. They're not, no one has added a closed. There's some added of open sort of porches. But I do think in terms of the neighborhood with the Hawthorne Linden, there is certainly open and closed porches, and two houses down, there's an open kind of porch. So yes. You're correct. I did not want to say. I was more looking at the architectural value of the neighborhood, not the setbacks. The setbacks on the other side is much lower than our side.
Yeah, and it's very consistent too.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions of the applicant? Okay, hearing no more questions, we'll open this hearing up to the public. Claudia, has anyone indicated a desire to speak?
There are no hands.
Okay, as the hour gets later, the hands get fewer. Okay, so we'll close the public portion. And Mr. Holtmark, before we go into executive session, do you want to add anything else?
No, just thank you for hearing my presentation and considering this application.
Okay, all right, let's go into executive session. Board members, are there any comments, questions, or would someone like to make a motion? Please, Michael.
Yeah, from my question, I have a concern. Front yard setback is something that I think at least we look at a little bit more closely than side yard, and this is a compliant lot. Actually, the prevailing setback on this side of the street is very consistent. It's actually close to 30 feet, although code allows 25. I think this will be an exception. I think there's 8 lots, not counting the sort of Linden Lane corner lot. And they're all consistent. They're all set back about 30 feet. It looks like there's a new house that's going up down the street, or will be. It's an empty lot, and I do worry that this will not only extend farther than the code allows 25 into the front. It actually goes farther from all the houses that are set back 30 feet consistently. So that's my concern.
I agree with your concern. The setback would not be consistent, although the addition could be smaller then.
Smaller than what? Than proposed?
Yes.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other comments by board members? Any more discussion on this? Okay, well, would someone like to make a motion?
I move it be approved.
Of course.
Seconded.
Okay, any comments on the motion? Okay, Claudia, would you call the roll, please?
Who's second?
I did, Eve.
Ms. Chen?
Yes, but I'm just curious. I didn't actually see a site plan in the submission and then the materials we got. Should there have been?
There's a survey.
There's a survey. Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
this. That's all that I
Thought he had a. Did you have an area map? There is an area map. I mean, but site plan's not required,
yeah. Okay. I have the survey. All right. Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Davich? Mr. Davich?
He's muted.
Yes.
Mr. Floyd?
No.
Mr. Shriver?
Yes.
Stein?
Yes.
Chairman Cohen?
No.
Approved.
Okay, thank you very much. We are 3 minutes over the 10:30 mark to start a new application. I would personally, like to hear this tonight rather than carrying it. What are the members? Do you have any comments? Is that okay, or would you like to?
Okay with me.
I vote we carry on.
Okay. Everybody else okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good, all right. Let me get back to my. Good. Okay, this is our last case of the evening. It's 49 Lovers Lane, block 10,001, lot 18 in the R3 zone. And the file case number is Z22-189. Karen, is all the notices in order? They are?
It is, and the
Okay.
board has jurisdiction tonight.
Okay. Derek, can you summarize your memo, please?
Sure, thank you. Monica Ponce de Leon and Gregory Sedano are the owners and applicants. seeking a C2 variance to approve a height to setback ratio for a cabana that had been construction and exception to ordinance requirements. The property in question is 49 Lovers Lane. It's in the R3 section in the former Princeton Township. The subject lot and property are complying with respect to the applicable bulk requirements except the height to setback ratio regarding the cabana. Little history, the applicant was issued a building permit in 2016 to construct this home, including a pool and a cabana, and the pitch of the cabana roof was increased to create a steeper roof slope during the construction process, and it now encroaches into the required height to setback ratio. They're seeking a variance from the required 1 to 1.5 to permit a height to setback of 1 to 0.83. And actually, that number is a little bit higher than the actual height to setback requirement. It's actually less, but I'll let the applicant address that. It was a minor mathematical miss, and that's my memo. If you have any questions, be glad to address them.
Any questions of Mr. Berger? Okay, who is going to present this?
That will be me, the owner of the property, Monica Ponce de Leon.
Okay, please continue.
Ma'am, we're just going to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm your testimony this evening will be truthful?
Yes, I affirm.
Thank you.
I want to thank the board for staying late to take a look at this. You must be exhausted after listening to so many cases tonight, so I really appreciate it. And I want to thank Mr. Bridger for helping me put this together, as well as Ms. Ceballos for coordinating the whole thing throughout the process. So as Mr. Bridger explained, when we built the cabana, my now ex-husband decided to increase the roof of the cabana during construction. And I was not aware of this. Mr. Bridger brought it to my attention as I was seeking a certificate of occupancy. So I'm gonna show you an analysis that we did of the existing conditions. May I share my screen?
Please.
And even, okay.
I actually
Sure,
don't know what you guys see, unfortunately. Let me, can you see my screen now or not yet?
Yes, we can.
We can, what I was going to suggest is if you have more than one slide, we will just call them all exhibit A1. Maybe that would be easier.
You already have this. Let me do this differently. Ooh.
No, I understand, but now that you're presenting it, we need to label it. So, all right, if you've labeled them already, A, B, C, D, we'll stick with that. That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see my screen or no?
No,
Okay.
we can't anymore.
Apologize. Okay, let me do this differently. I'm just gonna pull up the material that I actually submitted and flip through it. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
Okay, so 49, can you see the screen now?
yes.
Okay, and I apologize for this. So 49 Lovers Lane is actually a very deep lot, and there is a lot of unique conditions that make this variance only pertain to this lot. The cabana is in the middle of the property and is far away from any other residences. And as you can see, it actually faces the rear lot, not the side yards of properties. Our immediate neighbor next to the cabana, the home is more than 400 feet away from the cabana itself. The lot also drops in elevation dramatically towards the back. So the cabana is actually much lower than the house, and that's what you can see in this diagram. This is the house itself, this is the cabana. And you don't see the cabana from the street itself. It's hidden by trees. And I'll skip, there we go. So this area is heavily wooded. These are back of lots that are not used. They are not manicured lawns. They are not yards that are, again, in heavy use. It's very wooded. And you don't see, I don't see my neighbors and they don't see me. So this is the cabana to the left. And with arrows, I pointed at the locations where I think my neighbors are. This is a panoramic view. This is my home on the right-hand side. And as you can see in this picture, they can hardly see the cabana. So we are seeking a variance on one end of the cabana. The variance that we're seeking is from 1 to 150 to 1 to 1.25. At the other end of the cabana, we're seeking a variance from 1 to 1.125. As Mr. Bridger was explaining, there was a mathematical error in the original application. So the number that you have in the application of 0.083 is incorrect. The actual variance we are seeking is to 1.125 as the worst case scenario. So the cabana, the actual wall of the cabana, the closest to the property line is actually well below the building height to setback ratio by zoning. Is the ridge that was actually built higher than required, as this diagram shows. So this dash line is the current zoning, and this dash line is the zoning. This dash line shows the portion of the building that is outside of the zoning regulation. And on the northern side, on the east side, the side that faces the street, the error is not as impactful. This is a view of the side of the cabana towards the back, where again the height to setback ratio is 1 to 1.125. And I know it's late, so I will leave it at this, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
So what would be, if this were to comply, how much lower would that ridge be?
3 feet lower in the worst side, I think. 3.5 feet more or less on the worst side, and about 2 feet on the side towards the street.
Okay, thank you.
And again, the wall itself is actually 2 feet under the required ratio.
Yeah, it's the ridge
It's the ridge that,
it's the ridge, yeah.
that my ex-husband decided to change on site.
What is the cabana used for?
So the cabana, I have 2 children. It's a pool cabana. So we have a shower, we have a toilet, and we have a changing room. So then when my children have their friends over, they can use the toilet and the shower in the cabana as opposed to coming into the house.
It looked like it had an open roof.
Yes, yes, it's open to the air.
Thank you.
And you have your house has a flat roof, and then your cabana has an outrageously pitched roof. It's kind of interesting.
Yes.
And
any other questions of Ms. Ponce de Leon?
I guess I
Please.
do. If perhaps you can explain if there is an answer, how sort of the purposes of zoning will be advanced by us granting this variance. There's some tests we're supposed to look at.
Yes. So I think that the harm to my neighbors would actually be greater if I am asked to correct this mistake. The house has been under construction for a long time. And I'm really trying to wrap it up. My poor neighbors have really been putting up with construction for an extended period of time. It's difficult to get builders. And if I have to correct the error, I will probably not have the funds to do something as nice as it is today. I will probably end up having to do a flat metal roof, which I don't think will contribute to the setting as much as the current design does. So I also think that given the specific condition of the lot, and I'm not an attorney, so forgive me if this is not how you guys think about these things, that the specific conditions of this lot, because there's so much distance between me and my neighbors, I don't think that the actual ridge height difference is perceptible. We completed this in 2019, and none of my neighbors came to me and said, what are you doing? This is, this is affecting my light and air. This is affecting my views. This is affecting my enjoyment of my yard. So I hope that helps frame it.
Yeah, thank you. And you're the Dean of Architecture at Princeton?
Correct. Correct. You're well informed.
Yes.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
And of course, I feel really stupid having to go for a variance for a really stupid mistake, that could have been avoided. So I really appreciate your consideration.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions of the applicant? Okay, hearing none, we'll open this up to the public. Claudia, has anybody indicated they'd like to speak?
Yes.
Okay, can you let them in? How many people want to speak?
So far, just one.
Okay, all right. Mr. Sheehan, can you unmute and can we
There we
see
are.
you? Whoops, there we go.
Mr. Sheehan, can we have your address, please?
Yes, my address is 27 Lovers Lane.
All right, and do you swear or affirm any testimony you give this evening will be truthful?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone. I know it's late, so I'll be brief. I just want to attest to the fact that anything that would advance the completion of this project, which I'm sure Monica wants to happen, and as a neighbor, one house removed, would love to see. I hope you'll take into consideration in your decision tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else that wants to speak, Claudia?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, all
There are
right.
no more hands.
All right, so we'll close the public portion of the hearing, and Ms. Ponce de Leon, before we go into executive session, do you want to add anything else?
I just want to thank the board. I can't imagine you guys working every week to this hour. So, every month to this hour. I really want to thank you for your service.
It's grueling.
Yes, actually.
Okay, so let's go into executive session. Board members, do you have any comments on this?
I don't see that there would be any. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's, it's far enough away. It's quite far from the neighbors. If you go back there, and I guess you could conceptualize the height of it goes with the trees, the sort of linear, there's things you could say. And it doesn't stand out given, the type of wood. So for me, I'm going to vote yes and hope it gets done, and whatever landscaping you're going to do in the front, I'm sure the neighbors waiting.
I
I agree. I don't see that there's any public good in knocking down the top of that.
Yeah.
2 or 3 feet. I'm for it.
Yeah, I think it's far enough away from everything around it and set back from the street, and the way the lot drops off in the back really
Yeah.
doesn't create an impact on the neighborhood or the neighbors. Yeah, I would vote for it. So any other comments, or would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we approve this C2 variance.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any comments on the motion? Okay, Claudia, please call the roll.
Jen,
Yes.
Colson,
Yes.
Mr. Davich,
Yes.
Mr. Floyd,
Yes.
Mrs. Shriver,
Yes.
Mr. Stein,
Yes.
Chairman Cohen.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey,
Well, welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
You're
I'm glad-
muted. You're muted.
Oh,
You're muted.
I apologize. Thank you so much. I
You're
really,
welcome.
really appreciate you staying this late to listen to this. Thank you for your consideration. And Michael, thank you. I did not know you were going to show up. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Yeah, good
and you
luck.
too.
Yeah, good luck getting it finished. I've been watching that
Thank
thing come
you.
along.
Thank
for
you. I'm
many
working
years.
very hard. I'm really trying.
I
Thank
drive
you.
by there 4 times a week.
I drive by 4 times a
I-
day.
Once I'm shooting to finish it by the end of the summer. I'm gonna have an open house. I'll send you invitations. So
That'd be great.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Okay, if there's nothing else to discuss, we will adjourn for the evening. So,
Thank you.
Thank you all.
hey,
Everyone.
Good night,
Thank you,
everybody.
Stephen. Good night.
Good night.
Night.
uh,